between the comments and when we're going. Okay, it's going. Let me share it too. It'll pop up for some people, but isn't this easy? Do you see how easy that is?
Yeah. Well, part of my problem that maybe isn't your problem is that I overthink things.
But you have all sorts of good equipment and everything, don't you?
I overthink things until I kill myself in my own tracks.
Well, I get it. Because I mean, I don't start stuff because I want it, so I know it's not going to end up how I wanted it. So why the fuck would I even start it?
It's good.
No, it's not. I need to stop and fail.
Well, but I think I was trying to take that in a different direction. Like, you don't. I guess maybe I wasn't taking you as literally with that whole, like, it's not going to turn out the way I wanted anyway, so what's the point kind of thing? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
But I think for me, it's like, I think like that, like, well, it won't be worth doing if it doesn't turn out the way that I would want it to. So therefore, it's not worth doing. But maybe what it actually turns out to be is also good.
Yeah, you have.
So I should do it anyway, and then even if doesn't come together the way I imagined.
Well, you're better at having things that actually work, in my opinion. Like you create actual creations, like you make things. Dog.
It's fun to make stuff. Are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
Oh, hey. Oh, there's like people too.
There's 4 people on right now.
Well, what's up, 4 people?
You can read the thing from here. Colin, oh, you would love Colin. Colin's from Colorado Springs, and him and his wife. We had the best time. We're in the room, Colin. She brought all her body paints. So she brought her body. It was like doing little tattoos, nice tattoos on people, and I had her put COVID on my boobies. It was a great night. So they're really cool. You'll have to meet them sometime.
Was that so that you would protect people from your COVID?
No, I just wanted her to make COVID on my boobs.
Oh.
So she like did one here, and then like one up here. One more fun her. Yo, cactus. Yo, what's up? Yeah, fun times. That was a good night. Thanks for stopping by, everyone who knows is at spirit_llama. David Gravy.
Yeah, that's who I am on Twitter.
But he's deactivated right now, but he's like, he'll come back. We just have control problems on Twitter.
Wait, Cactus TV, is that the cactus I know?
I don't know.
Like the friendly cactus?
Is that the friendly cactus TV? Or is that separate? We'll find out. It's delayed. They'll hear it in a minute.
I'm a pretty big fan of the friendly cactus. Not
Yeah.
saying that the Cactus TV isn't somebody I'd also be a fan of if
He drew this for
it's a
me.
different person. Oh, cool.
Isn't that cool? I'll show it. The friendly cactus drew me this. It's pretty awesome. There it is. They made like that one painting with the girl in the shell. Did his thing come up? I feel like we need music when it's a live stream, like background music or something, but it would be too loud probably.
Yeah, then it would sound like we're doing like a cam girl type thing. Like, because then it's hard to talk over the music. Then we'd have to just be like dancing a little bit.
And it would
like,
distract others. It would distract us like continually.
And then somebody would be like, "Show your boobs," and they'd be like, "I don't know, maybe tip me," or that's how I imagine it works.
You have to tip me. I think that's how it works.
Yeah, you guys
Allegedly.
have to. If you want mid naked, you have to super chat or whatever the thing is.
Do they? Yeah, I guess on regular YouTube.
That is the friendly cactus.
Is it?
Yeah.
I am the FC.
The FC.
I showed you a picture. I hope you saw it. Liberty OnlyFans.
I didn't know that this cactus, of whom I am fond, was a drawing artist, and it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, he drew that picture for me. That was nice. That's very nice.
Liberty Fans is that kind of like OnlyFans, but the libertarian version.
One said Liberty OnlyFans and then Liberty Fans.
Oh, I didn't see that. Yeah,
they're both.
Exactly.
That's the name of what we're gonna call it. Yeah, some tips or some shit. No, just kidding. You can do that on Twitter now. I
What?
can't. For some reason, it won't let me do it.
Oh, is that that little triangle thing?
Tip jar thing.
Oh, it might not be what I'm thinking of because I use Brave, and then Brave has this like its own like cryptocurrency that's called like BAT or something,
I don't
I
know.
think. And I've noticed that if I use the web app version of that, then it's actually really annoying because it makes the reply button and the like button jump back and forth because it tries to get your attention with this little triangle icon, which is for like tipping people with that kind of cryptocurrency for Brave users, I think. And so because it's trying to like get your attention by showing it and then not showing it, it also shifts all of the buttons over to the side. So it's a little bit like trying to play mini golf with the little like windmill thing. Like you have to like press the button at the right time or click on it because it's on the computer version. Click on it
So you know what we're talking about.
before it
though.
switches over. Yeah, but anyways.
Ray, I can't stay. I'm driving. Just saying hi. Oh, that's sweet. He's
Well,
staying
hi,
at least.
thank you, Cactus. It's an honor.
Oh,
It's
you can watch it
definitely-
later too.
Yeah.
You better watch it later.
Can I call you Cactus?
Can I call you Cactus? It's like my that mask up on that dummy thing.
It's like the Mardi Gras type thing.
I'm like, I got 2 of those heads. I made one into this charcuterie thing where it looked like a skin, but it was like prosciutto, and then you would take it off and have bread. So I had extra ones. So I'm like, oh, I can keep it for that. Sorry, I was distracted.
The foam head.
The foam head. Because I don't even have any wigs to put it on. I was going to give Chloe one. So I have another one too. I'm like, what am I going to do with 3 foam heads?
I've kind of thought that it might be useful for me to get wigs just for the sake of doing skits. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. One of the annoying things though about the prospect of doing skits is that I'd probably have to shave to really do the characters that I would want to. I know, but like you heard my Fauci impression earlier.
Oh, yeah, you should
how
do
could
it.
how could I do Fauci with a beard? It wouldn't quite work. Like in a sketch.
We can make it. You just have to hope the people are have a good imagination.
Dr. Paul, you have no idea what you are talking about.
Blankly. Yeah, God, what was that one thing he said? Keep going. You're good at it.
Yeah.
I'm science. If you
I mean, he even does that sassy little like head dance thing, like if you attack me, then you attack science. I can't the mannerisms. I would have to rehearse that to do it very well and actually get the mannerisms right and everything.
I was thinking, what was I just gonna say right then? I'm so high. Fauci.
Well, we got
It was about
people-
Fauci.
You were going to talk about Fauci.
It
Yeah,
was-
what were we talking about earlier? Just random stuff.
I don't know. Yeah. Let's go. We gotta figure out songs we want to sing.
Yeah, so we're talking about doing satirical kind of like songs.
So David and I met over a year ago now. So it was towards the end of summer 2020 because we met through Twitter and we've hung out. And every time we've hung out, we've had the idea that we would do like podcasts and stuff.
Yeah, we're always riffing on ideas and then we're never actually putting them together.
No, because we hang out, we just talk the whole time.
Yeah. Though we did a sketch, like an educational sketch about
We filmed a bunch of stuff
about
last
the
year.
minimum wage, and I just never edited it together and stuff. Like wrote the script within 5 minutes of recording it.
You have other film footage too of us talking out there.
Yeah, that's true. The finished product
And
must
of
be
that guy.
refined.
So the guy Felix I told you about, he knew that guy that passed away from Colorado Springs that you talked with. Do you know what I'm talking about? Trouble thinker. Whatever.
Oh,
Do you remember?
if you told me that before I didn't register that that's who he knew.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I guess they were like,
I recorded a podcast with him that I never even put together. It's probably a good idea for me to do that.
if you have it,
I still can't believe that he's not alive.
I know, isn't that wild?
Because
What
I
was his
never,
name?
I mean, I don't think a whole lot of people have even seen his face, but I did a video chat with him, so that's the only time I ever saw him. I never met him in person.
His friend showed. I was like, I don't even know what he looked like, and he would show me a picture, but I already forgot what he looked like. But
Yeah, he was one of my favorite. Yeah, absolutely, is a handsome dude for sure.
He was good looking.
Yeah, and but I've known him pretty much the whole time I've been active on Twitter. He was always one of my favorite accounts.
Yeah, and then I remember he was in Colorado, and we never got the chance to meet up, and then he broke his leg, and now
he had the broken leg.
It was like a month or two later, I feel like.
So it was like shortly after our conversation that, wow, that's crazy.
Tell your friends you love them.
Yeah, that's for sure.
They're watching the Rittenhouse trial. The case is over after they.
Yeah. Well, have you been keeping up with that at all?
I watched a little this morning of the guy who shot his arm, and they're like, were you pointing his gun at him and he shot you? And he's like, well, yeah. Like he's trying to like wiggle out of that. And it's like, obviously you were pointing your gun at him.
Oh, I have not seen that part. In fact, I've only kind of seen some people commenting on the story. I watched a little bit because somebody, like maybe Tim Pool or something, brought up one detail about how about how the one of the witnesses there was there recording footage, and they were trying to get him to say that the dude that died was already like falling down. So the guy was like basically falling before he got shot. And he just wasn't having it. He was like, no, when I said falling, what I really meant more accurately was lunging. He was lunging at Kyle, and then Kyle opened forward. Yeah, so I watched that clip of the actual court case. The prosecution is absolutely, it's almost like they're trying to blow it. I think they might be trying to blow it. They just know that they can't win. They just want to get it over with or something.
More blonde and beautiful. Right. Sorry. Are you still talking about Rittenhouse?
Yeah. And I was just commenting on Colin says that that the prosecution is blowing it. And yeah, that's at least what I've become pretty clear on. That, well, I mean, for one thing is that they released like aerial footage maybe from a helicopter or something only very recently. So not only was this evidence not even presented at the beginning of the case, which is what you do, they like popped it on them, and knowing that they've had it the whole time, but it was supposed to be used by the prosecution, and then all you can get from this footage is even more reinforcement that clear-cut self-defense.
Michael saying, I wonder why they want to prosecute it. I mean, that could be part of it, just to make people scared to defend themselves. And anyone who has a gun who may want to defend something like he did, which whatever, you can argue if he should have went there or not, but like he was, it's like,
that's a good point. I mean, as much as I think that I would hope that people would look at that more and be more inspired, because when I think about that, like, I've even thought about that as related to like what I think it means in the Christian sense of like being what one would say is like free in Christ, is that like, well, yeah, if you think that you're living the like righteous life, then if you're being persecuted for doing good things, then you wouldn't, there's no real need to be fearful about that from that point of view. So, and it kind of looks to me like the guy's just out there trying to do good things. I don't know who he is or as a person what his character really is, but based on what I know about what he did that day, like trying to tend to wounded people, trying to like put out fires, like literal fires with a fire extinguisher, and then it looks like he was just basically attacked for trying to undo what the destructive violent people were doing. And so he defended himself.
Yeah.
I mean,
Heart was in the right place.
so so the idea I guess I'm trying to get at is that like that should be something that would inspire people. Be like, yeah, I mean, and it would be good even if I end up getting persecuted. If I know I did the right thing, then I'll go to jail knowing I did the right thing, and I'm fine. But I could definitely see prosecuting this case just for the sake of looking like, yeah, okay, you can try to be the hero. You can try to be like, you can try to exercise your self-defense rights. But if you do, you're probably going to be dragged into court and you're going to have to go through this whole thing. And people on the internet are going to say that you're a Nazi and all this stuff. So, yeah.
If you want to defend yourself, you're a Nazi, no matter what. Yeah, we're in the backwards world. Remember Michael Borokowski, this guy, he's like, I disagree with, he was talking about, he was like, I disagree with him on everything, but I love him so much. Let me see if that's what that
Who disagree with me on everything?
is. Yeah. He meant it nicely. Like, I think he just like bantering with you, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. I feel bad that I should probably know who he is.
You're so popular, though. Like, you know. Oh, did you see this? Okay.
Yeah, I've got almost
Up
like a
in,
fifth as many followers as you do.
They're going door to door to help residents be safe from COVID up, and they're doing it up at kind of by like the stock show area where they've already displaced everybody, and it's already like homeless people central. I'm like, yeah, show up at my door. Come show up at my door. These people. That's what people are like. It's a conspiracy theory that they'll show up at people's doors. No, it actually already happened. So what's to keep them from? Someone sent me pictures from. He was driving down to Colorado Springs, and it was, I don't know if you saw him. It was like vans, vaccination vans, Colorado vaccination.
I think
vans.
I saw one of those too, and I think the only reason why I didn't think about it more was I was probably working. And I didn't want to be thrown off of my rhythm.
Yeah.
So I was like,
You're like, I can't
oh,
get
what
into
the
it.
fuck? Okay, I'm moving on to just focusing on what I'm doing right now.
Because that's a lot.
That is a lot. I yeah, definitely, like,
it's too much.
yeah, I hope that whenever I'm back on Twitter that I don't get stuck in an argument over that shit. Because that,
And oh, what else was I gonna say about it? Oh, and the Colorado government vaccine buses were registered with Wyoming plates. So that was a little interesting.
That's random.
I remember this too.
wasn't there this thing about like the they were talking about somewhere having the National
Good
Guard
job, Colin.
the National Guard enforce vaccine mandates, but one small
the
problem is that like the National Guard are largely unvaccinated or something.
Right.
So how is that going to work?
Oh no, this was Mike Nichols. That's who said. Do you know who Mike Nichols is?
Yeah, I definitely remember that name.
He says he is awesome, and I disagree with him on everything. LOL.
Yeah, well,
I don't think you would though, because I would think he's.
I'm sure that we've had our things though that we just never quite. I mean, we've just kind of agreed to disagree. Not recalling precisely because avatars are how I usually recognize accounts more than actual names. But I know I that name rings a bell, and yeah, I'm sure. No, absolutely, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, but we always respectfully disagree, and I think that we enjoy each other.
That's what's nice about.
Yeah,
that's what's nice about our types.
I love it when people disagree with me because then it's like I'm talking to someone else who's not just me.
Yeah, like talking to people who are totally different. That's why, like, this has been kind of fun talking to like people in Australia and then like just people from other places and shit. Because it's like I don't want to just talk to me all the time. I'm with me all the fucking time. I'm over me.
That's one thing about conformists that I will never understand is that like, well, if you have to all agree about everything, don't you hate each other? Maybe that's like
They
the
definitely
kinky
got
sex
hate.
thing is that like they just get so they don't have as many intellectual like disagreements amongst themselves because their whole thing is agreeing on everything. So then what is there to talk about? Nothing. That's fine. Like
Then they talk about what they shouldn't talk about. That's what they talk about.
yeah.
Like how fucking boring. We were talking about that before. Like, why would you be so easily offended? And why would you want to be a victim all the time and go out of your way and just all this energy spent being a victim? Like, life's so hard already. Why do they want to make it harder?
I guess the low hanging fruit on that is that like well like life is too easy, right? Like,
Yeah, that's
I guess that's what that's kind of when people say like first world problems.
it's
Well,
true.
Yeah, well, the thing about the first world problems is that it's still problems, right? Like
Right.
human life is hard. People are fighting an internal battle, regardless of whether they're starving or whether I mean, whether they have $1 million or $30 billion. Apparently, as rich as Bill Gates is, he can't leave us the fuck alone. So something's still eating away at his soul.
He's got big old tits. Have you seen that?
No, I don't know if I have, but I mean,
He's got
he's what a soy boy turns into
Yeah.
when they're I don't know in their 70s or something like that.
And they eat babies.
I mean,
Probably, allegedly.
I mean, I'm sure that he probably doesn't eat meat except for possibly human meat, but
That's all I can picture. It's so hard not to picture.
yeah, that's probably how it happens. Is that like being a committed vegan and then he's like that committed, but there's still some like internal like I need flesh, and eventually he's like, well, humans are evil because they're destroying the planet and they won't let me force like vaccines on them and they won't do what I say and they're not as smart as me and they won't be my slave voluntarily. So I guess like if I crave flesh, why not just eat them? Like
they're dispensable. Why not? Ugh.
I hate that that's possibly like
I know, it's
closer
so
to the
gross.
truth.
It's so gross. I was watching. Me and Buck are binge watching a True Detective. Did you ever watch True Detective with Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey?
Mm-mm.
It's the first season. The seasons are like different each time, but this was the
The
first
show,
season of
series.
it, and they're going after this like wide-ranging cops involved, church involved, rich people involved, sex, satanistic, ritualistic type shit or sacrificing of children. And I'm like, oh, this is just a microcosm of what's really going on. Like that's what I like when the story is not all that like creepy or weird to me. Like I'm like, oh, this is probably what's really actually going on, just on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
Did you hear about the concert where the people who all had heart attacks?
No?
So in Houston, a guy named I don't even know. It's a rap guy, but you guys see the symbolism, especially because I know you believe in Satan, so you should see this shit. Even it's got me shook a little bit. But all these people,
I believe that Satan exists. I don't believe in him.
Okay,
like I believe in you, buddy.
No, I didn't mean that.
No, I know you didn't.
So he's a rapper, and like, so all these supposedly things got tight in this one area, which that happens at concerts and stuff, But people started passing out with heart attacks. People were just passing out left and right, and they're trying to get the cops in there and to stop the show, and he didn't stop the show, and that's not it. I don't know what the rapper's name is. Sorry, everyone. We're doing. I haven't. He's been off of Twitter, so I have to fill him in on everything.
Yeah, because like, what is like 1 week not on Twitter is like the equivalent of living under a rock for like 10 years. So much shit happens. I completely miss the window of time to talk about certain topics.
That's true because they
like I know you guys were talking about Nicki Minaj back when that was happening, but it was all that conversation had pretty much just completely finished itself by the time I was back on Twitter.
They've memed her now. They have the 4 horsemen of the COVIDopolis or something.
Huh? I haven't seen that.
One.
Oh, cool.
Aaron Rodgers just recently.
Eric Clapton.
No, not him, but some other people. But he would have been on it, but it's just there was only
Or
4.
should have at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, Clapton is my hero for sure. And of course, did you see? I saw this thing that like Jimmy Dore was even talking about, where like
He got
they
the
even
vaccine
tried.
messed him up.
Yeah, so he was already, I think, before he even got it, if I'm not mistaken, he was saying that he was not going to play any shows for events where people are discriminated against for not having a shot. But then he himself, like, as much as he was like, yeah, no, that's not cool. I'm not going to exclude fans just because they don't want to take this drug.
Right.
Which is weird that
Common
that's like the
sense
one
approach.
guy like standing out. It's like that's what everybody always should have obviously
That was
had
the
to say
smartest
about
way
that.
to go about it.
I mean, it's the only reasonable thing to do, but at the same time, it's still brave. Still brave when nobody else is being reasonable to be the one guy who is. So gotta respect him for that. Any case,
Right. So there was
but
like
but they even
that
went
was
as
the
far.
stage.
Rolling
It was like
Stone
a
magazine.
portal. It was like a portal, and then there's other animations I gotta show you where there's like hands, and of course the imagery and symbology. People are making all these connections right away to Satan
Yeah.
stuff. But it is just, I think it could be as simple as because you had to be vaccinated or tested to go to this. I think it could just be we're putting this thing into a lot of more people. So, and when something like that happens at a concert or it gets crowded and you get packed in, which happens, like a lot more people are going to react. Their hearts aren't going to be able. Their hearts are hurt from this medicine, possibly. Like it could be as simple as that. Or, but then other people say people were like injecting drugs, or it could be from like all these people were passing out from drugs. I don't
Well,
know.
now I'm going to have to go down that rabbit hole, and I have a feeling it's going to be a very strange experience. So I just want to recap in case I'm not like confusing things in my own head.
Okay.
So at that event that you were just showing me footage of, there is actual satanic imagery and stuff like that going on, like at the performance, and at that same
Concert.
event, a mysterious number of people had heart attacks.
Yeah, and the guy singing was like being weird and chanting, and like people were telling him to stop, and he never stopped the show, and he could see all these people around him like passing out. And then so you know how there's the one eye thing. Some people were saying like they found pictures of him doing the one eye thing.
The
like,
evil eye?
well,
Or not?
I don't know what it means, but if you show one eye, it's like I don't know. That's another rabbit hole. I haven't gone down completely. But
Yeah, I feel like I should know what that means, but I'm not sure. I've never been that much. It's kind of surprising that I never got into the Satanism like nerdiness back when I was more into New Age stuff in general. I've just never been that much of an edge
that
lord.
was the stage. It was just very. I mean, whatever. I'm fine with whatever. Do whatever, but it was definitely very Satanistic or like hell looking.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and there's absolutely a connection there, but that's really wild. Like that
Travis Scott.
I don't even want to even comment too much on whatever speculations might just come off the cuff, because that requires some real thinking. Because that's wild.
Yeah, it just.
I mean, but there is
they're not
definite-
talking about it much either. Like after it.
And
all
there is
happened.
something of a blood sport to this whole thing. Like I have heard somebody make some points that at least made sense to me, like comparing this to like vampirism or vampiricism or something. Vampiricism.
Like
sounds
they're
like
sucking the
made up
lifeblood off
word.
of younger.
Well, yeah, I mean there is a puncture of the skin. It's kind of like there's something about that of this sort of like ritual, like almost like a vampire bite of sorts. And like no, they're not like they're obviously not like drawing blood out of you or like literally consuming your blood, but you're part of this like blood ritual.
Just look at
And
their-
if you don't receive this puncturing thing, then you're not like initiated into the society of the allowables or something.
Fuck nasty. Have you heard? Is there any more deaths, or is it still just 8 deaths? Are they reporting on anything else?
Oh, that happened in Houston?
Yeah, it's in Houston.
That's crazy.
People were there was ambulances pulled in to help people, and people were just like dancing on top of the ambulances, but the ambulances were like really there to help. And like some other people said they felt
So people
they
were
felt
treating
the-
this whole thing like this was all like a performance, like everything
they just were in
from
their
the
own mind.
everyone's in a trance.
Yeah, and some people said they felt there was this energy and the tones and the
Yeah, it sounds
beats
like they were
and-
like maybe literally worshiping Satan. Not that, I mean, one could literally worship Satan in a very innocent looking way, but that could have been
the
like
stage
even
is an inverted cross.
okay. Yeah, they were just going as over the top on that as they could.
Someone says the
And
stage looked like the CERN, the like hydrogen particle, and they're like the number 8, I guess.
Well, that's some of the weird stuff about this.
Yeah.
Like I was listening to this Jonathan Pajot podcast about this one music video
Can't get anything we need from the news. Sorry, go on.
where this guy is doing like it's the music video is also just unambiguously like Satan, like it's like the gospel of Satan in a music video, and it was also tied to this Nike sneaker with like 666 and all this stuff, that apparently every sneaker has like a drop of human blood in the sole too.
Oh.
Yeah, but I mean, for the people who are into this, it's all like fun, and you're just not sophisticated enough to get that the real like symbolic message of this is just self-love. And but in that music video, like the guy basically like meets everyone in the music video is him, like this the same person who's the rapper. And everyone else in the music video he encounters, first it starts in the Garden of Eden. He's both Adam and Eve and the serpent, and then he's throughout it, and toward the end he's both himself and the devil, and then he like has sex with the devil who is himself, and then kills him, and then steals his crown, and then puts it on his own head.
Raunchy video, like
Oh,
where
yeah.
he's on the devil, like. And he's
Oh,
like
yeah,
this. I've seen
Although
a
the
picture
sex
of it.
scene part was like part of it was almost like supposed to look ridiculous, like to maybe make it less erotic and more cartoonish. But and I only watched like the video itself once, but there were some parts of it that were just described by Jonathan Pajot. But one of the things he was kind of getting at is that there people are entertained by the irony of it all, and the provocativeness of it is some of why people get into it, is because they don't actually believe in it at all, like that this has any basis in reality, but part of them just thinks that it's funny, the way they know that like people who believe in like Jesus would be offended by that, or think that there's something like, oh, this is bad, this is evil. Be like, you guys are idiots. Like, you actually think there's a devil, you actually think that there's a God. Like, don't you realize that we're just smart people who are creative and think symbolically about like how you can come to love yourself or something like that? It's like, no, you don't get it. That actually is the gospel of Satanism. Like, and irony is like built into the whole thing.
I like anything with dog. Too much dogma. That's my problem. I feel like that. It's the Thelema, which is like that one Aleister Crowley thing.
Yeah, I one of my buddies that I met. Oops,
I just
spilled water. I met this guy who I'm still friends with, who has that tattooed on his arm.
Oh, really? Was he like way into it?
He was in New Hampshire. I don't know how into it he was, but
And they even have that. I haven't read it all though.
I don't know how exactly into it he was, but I think he identifies not as a Satanist, but as a pagan.
Okay.
And while we were all outdoor knocking, his one request that was kind of strange from everybody else's perspective, but they still let him do it, was I need Halloween off because it's a religious holiday which he refers to as Samhain.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. So at least he was trying to make a point that, like, no, I take my religion seriously just like anybody else does. So I assume he's probably somewhat sincere in that, but I just don't really know that much about his beliefs. I just know that, yeah, I like the guy. He's pretty nice.
That's all that matters. I can go along with just about fucking anybody. As long as you're nice.
Although most of those guys, though, because this actually was the Young Americans for Liberty thing, most of them were younger than me, and from my perspective, they were all commies. So I know that he probably said some things that made me think like, "Oh, you're a commie."
Like,
But then I'm
just
like, he's
more,
like 23, and so are all these other guys.
like against private property or what?
No, and I mean, it's really like it's what Twitter has taught me to be a reactionary against. It's that whenever somebody says anything that is even like remotely like, well, yeah, like freedom is all good and everything, but like there is this reason why the government maybe should. And then I'm like, oh, let me stop you right there. You're a commie.
When the government should. Commie! I hate that they've made me have to say commie. I remember I always hated those people call me. Now I'm like, some people have to be fucking called commies. Like, why have they made us like this? All they had to do was leave us alone. That's all they had to do.
I haven't been like red baiting or whatever that's called
Red
as much
baiting?
lately.
What's that?
I think I might be completely off on that, but it's read something.
Trying
it
to
was
get
like
people
a
red pilled or
no, it's very different. It's supposed to be in reference, I think, to McCarthyism. Where I'm just talking about my opposition to communism. And some like leftist on Twitter will be like, oh yeah, and you're like trying to like red bait us and everything. And I think that's because they're trying to liken that to whatever was going on back then with trying to invoke the term communism in order to discredit your opponent in some kind of fallacious way or something like that. Like, but no, I'm not really trying to do that. In fact, I don't really think that would work nowadays because people are very sympathetic to socialism, largely speaking, and so no, I'm not going to be able to even try to discredit my opposition by saying, "Oh yeah, you're like a socialist." No, they would take that as a compliment.
They do. Everything's all there's no. I remember talking about capitalism, how the definition does it, and I asked someone, I'm like, "Is this the college kid definition of capitalism or the free market?" And then she like it's a check mark of some sort, but she posted this like definition. It was like, and sometimes it just refers to like the way the government and the markets are right now. And I'm like, no. Like it was so dumb. It was like, no. Well, but then that's
sometimes whenever it suits her.
Yeah, that's what it
sometimes
was like,
it means this, other times it means that. Yeah, that's right. You do manipulate people with language games.
Yeah.
And
that's why I asked for the definition, which if I'm asking for clarity, then I feel like I'm the good guy at least, I'm at least in good faith.
Yeah, but then but when you do that, you usually get ignored by these people, or you, or they just, or it just like really pisses them off, and because a lot of the time they don't even know what to do with you asking for clarity. It's like, why would I? But that's not.
And they don't think about things either. They just they don't know the next thought step. They're just like, no, this is what we're supposed to do. This is what we're told to do. And then someone's like, why? And they can't. And that's why they shut down and tantrums and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing to wrap my mind around because I don't even assume that it's the same whole psychological process for every single one of them. But there's going to be one element of just that in-group preference phenomenon where it's like, yeah, all my friends know that capitalism is the reason why everything isn't the way it's supposed to be. It's just well, and that's really how it happens with a lot of people that have those opinions, is because these people are just sitting around smoking weed and like doing what people do. And then when some kind of negative subject comes up, maybe it's related to economics or prosperity or lack of thereof, and then someone's just like, yeah, man, capitalism, am I right? And they're not really prepared for somebody to be like, what do you mean?
What does that mean?
What do you mean? Like what is capitalism, and why is that the reason why what we're talking about is how it is? It's like, what are you talking about? Like, that's just like, you're totally not even, you're not even hanging at that point. You're not, it's like, no, we're just supposed to like nod and say like, yeah, fucking capitalism, right? Like,
I knew someone, she opened a little gym, like she does like powerlifting, and so she opened kind of like a weightlifting gym. And she said something on a post on Instagram a long time ago about capitalism, and I was like, I was super nice, and I said, I think you mean more corporatism. But I'm like, but you just opened a business, and you're saying capitalism's causing whatever my meme was about or something, like, ugh.
I
They're
know I had
so
a pass.
close. They're so close.
I know I had a passenger not too long ago that was kind of, I don't think they say capitalism, but kind of just talking about this and that, and then was like, and then was like talking about, we were talking about other countries and stuff like that, and then like they're asking me like, what's your favorite continent, even if you haven't been there? I said like Asia. I think it's just an interesting place, and for some reason we started talking about Europe. And like, and then yeah, she's like, Europe is great, like, because like in this like socialist there, and I was like, yeah. Like, that's all I wanted to say. It was like, that's, you got a point. Like, they are kind of a bunch of commies over there in Europe, but no, but at the same time, I'm like, oh goodness, there's a can of worms I could open, but I'm not.
It's not even worth it. That was like my friend the other day with the how can you describe how the media is controlled by the government? Like, I just can't even wrap. And I'm not a smart or like a snotty person, you know this. And like, I couldn't even wrap my head around the fact he would ask ask that. And I know, and like we said, Scott, it could have been like a gaslighty kind of trying to play out some I just want to argue with you type of thing, and then like, or just like, I don't, oh, it's just so obvious. Like, it's so obvious. But he was
yeah, because that the vibe of that, why I think that could have been kind of gaslighty, or maybe sort of trying to prepare to set you a trap, is that it kind of reminds me of like when you say like you're not really thinking about what's coming next, but you're like, yeah, they're trying to like put us on a national caste system and like and establish this new system of like of just making it normal to like have to get a shot to go to the grocery store and stuff like that. And then where they get you at is like, wait a minute, back up there. They, who exactly are they? Like, that's kind of the kind of vibe I get from that question.
Like, I don't see anyone getting held down and being forced into it. And I'm like, yeah. And even if it's not physical, and like as an analogy, if you take someone's livelihood away, it's the same as killing them. That's what like Michael Malice said that or something like.
Yeah.
It's akin to killing them. So.
And Larry Sharpe wasn't talking about exactly this, but I've heard him explain this very concisely in a way I really appreciated, where it like just the basic act of like the coercion that people will easily try to deny is that it's like, yeah, so what you're saying is like maybe, I don't know what example he used, but let's take taxation. Is like, yeah, so it's basically extortion, like give me money or I'll kill you. Wait a minute, no, they don't kill people for not paying their taxes. Well, let's follow the timeline. Like, okay, so what it is they're saying give us this money and you're supposed to agree to give them the money. Okay, cool, but what if I don't agree to give them the money? Oh, well then they'll say that you have to give them the money. Well, what if you still say, no, I'm not going to give you the money? And they're going to send men with guns to you. Okay, well, what if I don't want to go with where the men and guns want to take me? Then they will then kill you. Okay, so it is a threat of violence up to the state. Yeah, they're trying to exhaust other options before actually taking your life. But at the end of the day, they are forcing you.
They'll kill you for anything. Anything.
But it's funny the way, I mean, not funny at all, but the way that, like, because this is another one of those talking points that my mom brought up, was saying that it's like, she even said private businesses have the right to require their employees to get vaccinated. And I didn't argue anything contrary to that. So that's why it was like, that's why this seemed like a talking point. Like, what? Okay, so where are you getting at? I guess presumably you're suggesting that there's no mandates, that it's just that the only reason why we perceive there to be mandates is that on their own accord there are certain private businesses that just said, well, I would love to not have to fire half of my employees, but I mean, I cannot imagine keeping them on if they're not vaccinated. Like I'd been paying them to do the work that I'd been paying them to do for all this time, and I mean, I thought they were good employees because they did good work, but obviously I was wrong if they won't get this shot. So on my own accord, without any other external factors, yes, I'm very happy, and I have the right to fire as many of the good workers as I have, because like as if that's something that's going on at all, and it's not that, as if she's never even heard of the suggestion that the president told OSHA that they must enforce this for all businesses over 100 employees. Yeah. Which, of course, won't stop at that if they actually somehow pull this off.
It's not going to stop at all. Like it's
not going to stop at 100 people. Like it's going to businesses.
It's not going to stop at one booster either. It's not going to stop at it's people. Like I don't get.
And that's obviously the intention is to just really take this as far as possible. Well, I don't know. I guess I shouldn't say it's obvious. Who knows what the overall plan is?
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm like. I just know they're not going to stop. From the last 2 years, they haven't stopped. They just keep pushing and pushing and pushing.
That's true. They will kill people for untaxed cigarettes.
Yeah.
That shows how much they're willing to kill to get our money.
And they're allowed to kill. They're literally allowed. They have qualified immunity, and they get away with shit all the time. Why do people want only them to have guns and stuff when they're literally allowed to kill? How does that make any goddamn sense?
Oh, well, it's because it's the we just have to get the people who are like good and stuff to be the ones who apply the force, because then they'll do it in a good way and not a bad way.
Oh, okay. Right.
So what we really need is 100% totalitarian, and I don't mean like because people don't know the definition of totalitarian, they just think that it means like bad, but no, it means like a total system of like this is the system, and it is implemented as totally as possible. I think that's accurate enough. So we need a totalitarian system of like every aspect of everyone's life is completely determined, but we just need to make sure that it's determined correctly. And then it'll be good.
Duh.
Yeah.
Duh.
And it'll help once we have robot cops.
Oh,
we can have robot cops that for sure will only enforce good laws, which are basically the laws that say that we all have the right to get health care. And then once we all have the right to get health care, and this is enforced by our robot overlords, then happiness forever.
You know what? And everyone, and there'll be a UBI, and everybody gets the same amount of everything. And like, I should do. If you want to read one of these, Anthony left some of his books here. You can borrow them.
Oh, cool! In fact, when we were talking,
there's Anthony's book. Go get it.
And
you can read it. And I have got a couple copies.
When I was first talking to you about how you got to meet him, I was trying to remember what exactly the subject matter was that brought him under my radar, but it was exactly that, the UBI. I think I watched maybe even a Soho Forum debate of him
he did.
With somebody on the UBI.
He's done a couple debates and like.
Yeah. Yep. And I've appreciated him ever since
but
I saw that.
I'm like, just beyond the actual economic number sense, we are like what we would fear UBI came into is where they could take away based on ideology. That's already fucking happening. It's already happening with the government making private businesses take your livelihood that you want and you want to work, and like it's already fucking happening. This is like a version of it, Some
of it is almost satisfying though, that like the same people who have been screeching about healthcare like being a human right, like
They want
maybe
people to
not the
do
same
this, like,
exact people, but from at least it's easy to perceive them as this big like blob of like monolithic like opinion.
right.
Uh, is that it seems like the same like hive mind that said that is also saying, well, if you won't get this shot, then we just then you can't even then you don't get to go to the hospital anymore. Okay, sound like a deal? Like,
Fine. I've already said fine. Fucking
yeah,
fine.
I mean, and I mean it's been kind of my attitude for most of my life. I grew up with a father being a doctor and realizing that, oh, these people don't actually know what they think they know, and I don't trust them at all. And except for, I mean, not. I don't distrust them completely, but I realize that, yeah, a lot of the time they're just trying to convince themselves that they know what's up with something, but they don't really. Yeah, I saw it up close, so I know how that goes. But yeah, I early on I figured, well, okay, well, I don't like suffering, I don't like being sick, and I also kind of would like to live a long life, I think. So I guess I should just probably try to be my own doctor, because if I leave that to somebody else, they're probably gonna fuck me up. And yeah, and it turns
you did a
out that
pretty good job.
if you take decent care of yourself, you can for the most part keep the doctor away. It does not involve just eating an apple, but
Yeah.
that
There's a little
principle is
more work
kinda-
involved,
Yeah.
but it's like people are acting like it's impossible. Like, no, you need medicines and all this. There's no way you could stay healthy. And I'm like,
Well, yeah.
well, yeah.
that is a common
Human
perspective.
mechanics. That's
So-
right, Colin.
Some of that comes down to some of the same people that want to argue that there is no causal relationship between lifestyle and obesity or something like that. Be like it's all
a
just
natural
random luck
disease.
and stuff like that. So you have no right to comment at all as a seemingly healthy person who is in seemingly good physical shape about how well I do this and it works for me. It's like, no, shut the fuck up. You don't get to talk about that because you are actually an ableist, and
You think it's so easy for everybody to
Yeah.
just move on? No.
and even taking it as far as to say like, oh, you think that you are healthy. Well, how do you get your idea about what that even means? This is like just the patriarchy trying to tell you that like having like muscle mass and like, not having a whole lot of stored fat in your body, and having skin that feels kind of like nice to touch as opposed to itchy and rough. That's just your, like, the patriarchy has made you think that that's ideal.
Yeah.
But in reality, like, it could just be as simple as, well, maybe being like, having cankles and big, like,
And feeling like crap every
and
day
not
is
not being able to get out of a car seat easily. Well, man, it's not really. Maybe it's a bad car seat design. Like it. I mean, part of me admires that level of open-mindedness, but at a certain point,
Right.
don't you realize that you got to stop somewhere, because at a certain point it becomes amazingly absurd.
yeah, like the postmodernist thinking is fun and it's cool to apply it to things, but at a certain point you're like hurting yourself, and I don't know if that's like what's just supposed to happen with it if you take postmodernism.
Well, it's a snake eating its own tail, I guess. So
Yeah.
eventually, it does have to self-destruct.
God.
It's clearly unstable.
Body purposes. Yes, exactly. And it's just for people who are more like, who are not, when people just see them as too fat or too skinny or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
but it's not to say like, oh, you can be 200 pounds overweight and you should be positive about. Like, no.
Well,
you shouldn't.
I could even take it as like it. If only that term hadn't been so misused, I would like it to be good, because body positivity could just mean like, yeah, I've got some, like, even if from the perspective of somebody who's like morbidly obese and has all kinds of other health issues and things like that, like I care about my body. I'm not ashamed of the fact that I've somehow ended up like this, and I'm going to be positive in my pursuit of suffering less and regaining more of my health, whatever I can. Like, because sometimes people do treat some of this stuff as if I'm fighting against my own body to try to achieve this state of health. And that can be really destructive when it comes to like girls who are on low fat, high carb diets, and they're kind of like, you know, not necessarily like, you know, I would understand that if I put myself in the shoes of a girl that's tried to do whatever the conventions say you're supposed to do. Yeah, work out and don't eat too much fat and don't worry about all and eat whole grains. For a lot of people's metabolisms, they're going to end up kind of fat if they do that. And they're also, and then a lot of the time I know they get into this sort of like, well, calories in, calories out. I've got to get my Fitbit and I got to do all my steps. And if I'm still overweight, then that just means I didn't exercise hard enough and I didn't starve myself hard enough. And so they just keep trying to do the bad thing harder.
Right.
And it's not working. They're like fighting against their own body.
Like maths.
Yeah, but you're supposed to work with your body. You're supposed to figure out what it is that is ailing your body so that you can be nicer to your body and so that it can be in a better state.
And so you don't feel like shit all the time.
Yeah, you shouldn't feel, you should be able to function in life if you can.
And like feel decent.
Yeah.
Feel good.
And not craving.
That's another reason I stopped drinking too. Like for a little bit, I was like, you feel sick. Like when you do it too much, you just like every day you wake up and you don't feel as good as you could.
And my whole childhood, it might even be a blessing for me. My whole childhood was like in a brain fog.
Yeah, because the
like,
food you were eating.
Yeah, I knew there was something wrong. It seemed like the other kids were like able to do stuff that I didn't think I could do, and I somehow didn't think that I was just simply stupid. Like I thought that I was actually impeded.
It's a reverse sneeze. He's okay, by the way.
Yeah, my cat does reverse sneeze stuff too, and people always think it's weird when
it looks like it hurts.
Yeah.
Like, go on. Just get it up, buddy. That's not that. Maybe essential.
But it's the hardest thing to describe. Like being like, I feel like I'm stupid, but that I'm not supposed to be stupid. Like, you know. But in any case, yeah, I think for me it was like so profound that I just couldn't ignore it, and I had to think that there was something I needed to change, and I found that thing, and it got better. But other than that, though, I didn't think much of the way that I was so into sugars and grains and stuff like that I constantly had food cravings, and I was always overeating and stuff like that, like.
In the like a lot of grainy, sugary
Yeah,
stuff.
because it didn't manifest itself in me gaining weight. It's not how my metabolism works.
No, you're not the kind to gain weight.
But I'd be sitting there like, man, wish I had a Coke right now. Like, I was so addicted to sugar.
I believe it.
But yeah, people don't even know. People don't even know that they don't have to feel that way.
Yeah, they don't.
Because, I mean, you even know, like, there's some pretty obese people that have just kind of given up at that point, and they almost just try to, like, make peace with it, which I kind of think there's something to respect in that. Like, yeah, I just love M&Ms, and I'm just going to eat this many M&Ms every day for the rest of my life, and I can't give them up. I don't care. Don't judge me. Okay, fair enough. But did you know that the reason why you're fat is the same reason why you psychologically can't even think about not giving up? You can't imagine your life without sugar.
Do you ever watch that 600-Pound Life show? Or have you ever caught it?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a doctor. So it's people who are like they're huge, you know, and that's a problem. And there's this doctor, and he'll real talk them, and they have to lose a certain amount before they can even start his program and get the like surgeries. And they have to lose weight as well before doing all these surgeries and stuff. Like, he'll real talk them, but it's like they eat so like I can eat a lot too. I can sit down and fucking pack food away, but like it's day after day after day after day after day of this where they just sit down and eat. I'm like, wow, like, and it's like it really is like. I understand why people think it's such a psychological thing because it is a psychological thing. Food in our bodies are the way that it interacts.
And it's not just, it's also chemical.
Yeah, it's something they can't help to some extent.
Yeah.
Until they can.
And I know that feeling well because when I was that severely addicted to like sugar, I mean, I can even remember what it was like even though I had no idea what was going on at the time. I could be in physical pain. I could have eaten a whole box of like Ritz crackers, and I I still wanted more of them, even though I knew that the reason that I felt bloated and gross was because I'd eaten way too many of them. I still wanted more, and it's because of the chemicals. Like I've already crashed off of the dopamine spikes that I got from the sugars that I already ingested, and I don't know how to get that back without continuing to gorge myself on crackers.
Yeah,
It's wild.
I get that with another kind of sugar.
Yeah.
Liquor sugar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
Then that one's terrible.
dopamine.
Yeah.
Same thing goes for Twitter, and I have to remind myself is like, yeah, I definitely like dopamine. That's
You've missed
probably
so
why I
much
kind of have
stuff,
such.
though, man. I'm glad I got you caught up. You're gonna, that. I hope you have a fun ride going down the Astro World. Hopefully, there's more information by then. But like, it's
That's
so.
wild. I can't believe that happened. Let alone that I completely.
There's a rumor as
if I had been on
well.
Twitter, I would not have missed it.
There's a rumor as well that one of the EMT guys got stabbed in his neck, and then they gave him whatever you give to undo fentanyl overdoses, and that brought him out of whatever he got stabbed with and passed out. But that's just a rumor; it's not substantiated. And then other people were like, "Yeah, someone was stabbing a bunch of people." And then other people said it was just a stampede, and a stampede happened there earlier in the day too, when it was light out. There was a whole stampede that happened, like where kids broke down a fence.
Because what I want to think is that was by no means like intention. Like it sounds like some shit went down that because they were playing with some stuff they didn't really understand, and some
Maybe.
supernatural shit might have actually gone down, and they're all trying to excuse it or like pass it off or something like that. But it's actually some real spooky shit that nobody really has any frame of reference for what was really going on there. But that's really weird though, because I want to relate it to the substance that's in there. But I also know there's like some spiritual, like it doesn't even have to be a real substance. It could just be the psychological aspect of like following along with this cult mentality assuming that demons exist, then that could just be enough to invite these like evil spirits in, and then I don't know, some kind of weird trigger. See, I said I wasn't gonna speculate on this until I actually had some time to think about it, but fuck it.
It's
and then some kind of like chanting kind of trigger or something unexpectedly like invoked whatever it triggered whatever that thing was that was oppressing these people's souls and then caused them to convulse and drop dead. I mean, I wish I could just make a fiction out of it and not have to explain real life using this idea.
It happened, I guess they call it a mass casualty event, and it happened like right after.
Is this just like an EDM festival?
No, it's a rapper, but the stage and all that definitely was lit up.
What's the name of the rapper?
Travis Scott. Travis Scott.
I'm
trying to find this other video. There's this other really good video where like they have hands on top of the like portal, and it looks really creepy. Oh, here.
Do you know how many people
like
actually had a legit heart attack?
They said like I think 11 people had some sort of cardiac event, and 8 people are dead. And then there was like 2 hands at one point. It's one of these kind of rappers.
You mean like where everything is auto-tuned?
A lot of auto-tune, yeah, and just like those hands are creepy though around the portal. Like, some of us, we went to the concert and we went to hell, and we like some people literally went to hell maybe.
I mean, and I think that's what I was kind of trying to get at is that I think a lot of people do innocently stumble into this thing from this type of stuff from a perspective of like, well, it can't actually be because I know people think that way because I used to. I just didn't really believe in any of that stuff. So whenever, like, I remember in middle school, one of my friends, like, we used to draw like pentagrams on our arms and like marker and stuff because we just thought it was cool. We were into like new metal and and being like provocative and into like dark hot topic stuff and whatever. And my friend had like drawn one of these pentagrams on his arm, and our like English teacher was like, "What? Why do you have a like Satan symbol on your arm?" And he's like, "It's not Satan. It's like that would be if it was inverted or upside down. This is actually like the pagan symbol." And he's just like, "That's not very wise." But we just thought he was stupid for like, what do you mean? Like, you
Oh,
actually are
man.
you superstitious? Do you think this is real or something?
Can you imagine the last thing in life you hear is some shitty auto tune?
Right. And that's like how the devil got you.
Oh my god. Ugh. Yeah, like
I mean, if the devil kills me, he's gonna do it with auto tune.
yeah, that would fucking kill me.
No, I don't hate that. I don't hate all of that as much as I thought I would always hate all of that when it
There's a
first came
time
out.
and the place for it, kind of like, but not really all the. When it's all of their fucking songs, I swear to God, I'm like,
Well, when that style first started coming out, at least from my perspective, what it looked like was a means for people who don't have any talent to like still
kinda
get famous.
create something.
Yeah.
And
Because it wasn't as much about just putting like this kind of computerized sort of melodic sound on a rapping voice. It seemed like it was like, okay, well, this guy can't sing, but we're gonna make it sound like he can, so that he can look pretty singing.
and
in his
it'll be a
music
cool
video.
little like this cool little thing.
Yeah. And then I started learning about how you can actually use auto tune in a way that is more subtle to actually correct somebody's pitch who.
Do you remember this song that they used for SNL?
Do we even have we have at least one person
There's
still?
4 people.
No, we haven't lost too many people yet.
We don't have to keep. We can get off whenever you want to.
Well, I'm happy that people actually care.
Yeah, it's always fun just to hear people talking. I feel like you can just put it on in the background almost, and like makes you think. And we think of the most random ass shit. So it's when there'll be a song that comes on in a minute. Do you remember these when like SNL little skits were funny for a minute? This song.
I remember it as if it was only like 20 years ago.
That was like one of the first popular.
Andy Samberg has definitely done some good stuff.
Yeah, he's funny. That guy is funny too. It just keeps going and people keep shooting each other and then the song keeps playing. Oh, Anthony's in here now. Thanks, Anthony. What that song is so ridiculous.
Oh, hey.
He's
Yeah,
gonna
it's
read your
good.
book, Anthony.
I was just telling her about how your stuff on universal basic income was how you got my attention a while ago. I was still trying to learn from people who knew anything about economics when I didn't.
He's smart. He's smart. This kid, he's super freaking smart.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Sorry.
Yeah, that UBI really gets under my skin sometimes.
People bring on Twitter. I was arguing with someone because they're like, I'm like, you understand if someone can take it away, if someone can take it away from you like they are right now, and then they're like, nope, it wouldn't be UBI if someone could take it away. Then it wouldn't be universal basic income. It would be something else. And it's like, okay, like I want to just kill myself when people say something.
Yeah, because I advocate a utopia. I advocate a world in which everything works. And so if your system, when you try to implement the ideas that I supported, if it doesn't work, I mean, if it doesn't turn into the utopia, it just wasn't.
Then it wasn't
you
the
were
right.
just doing it wrong.
Wasn't it?
If it doesn't go the way that you imagined it would, then it wasn't the idea that you supported in the first place.
I think Anthony's in Vienna. Colin, if he's still in here. Yeah, he's like, he might not be able to come back to the U.S. until he can maybe get an exemption from Scotland.
Anthony?
Yeah, and it's through, you can't even get a letter from your doctor. He was explaining to me yesterday. You can't even get like a letter through your doctor. You have to go through the state to get an exemption, and it's a nightmare. His mom was on the phone like all day calling people and like trying to figure it out, and it's such a disaster. And it's like so obviously they're not going to give a lot of exemptions, and like they're making it difficult and red tape. Ugh, let's see. It's funny because he only chose that topic as a springboard since I'm kind of a whore, since it was in the media. That's smart, though. That's smart. Can't blame you.
I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that. In fact, that's probably the best thing to do, to focus on an idea that is kind of relevant. For
Marketing, baby. So why?
I didn't even know this until I was right before I deactivated. I was arguing with this guy who was supporting UBI, and he hit me with the curveball I was not prepared for, because I was kind of suggesting, it just wouldn't work for this reason and that reason. He's like, well, they've had it in Alaska. And really?
Or where they pay for the gas or whatever?
Yeah, and I looked into it after he told me, and they've had it for a long time. It's like, oh, well, I guess I don't have a reference, so I can't exactly explain my thoughts on that. Whereas it didn't take me very long to do a little bit of research and see that, like, well, it's not like it's completely without its problems. But
Love will find a way, Anthony, to get back to the U.S. No, I know it. I also learned Qatar. In Qatar, they do that too, where they pay the people, but then you also pay into. It's weird.
Yeah. And it's understandable that if it seems to work at all, then it's more likely to seem to work in certain contexts, like in a smaller population and in an oil-rich environment where, because there's some reasons why that ended up being the place where they had something like that going on.
They were producing something off the land. I get the justification of it, that like they're all part of the land, living there, paying their little bit of taxes, and then.
But even if like things went really south in Alaska, well, and perhaps this is one of the reasons why maybe it wouldn't per se go as south as one might imagine a national UBI going, as far as like, oh, that makes you completely dependent on handouts from the government, then
forever.
So if you're in Alaska and they say like, well, you've got to do this ridiculous thing or we will withhold your UBI, and here you can't live without it, and you'd be like, where could I move where I could live without it? Oh, Washington. like I'm already a U.S. citizen, so that'll be easy. Like, it's not quite as easy to escape the system, I guess.
He's been. Are you being down on yourself? So bad. Whatever. Hey, he literally got sparked when
you won't have to convince me of that point with the inequality, but I still think that reading your words will be interesting.
I'm gonna get some water. Do you think?
Oh, you're modest, but you are a badass. And I'm talking to a screen, but I know that you're there.
I have pictures of Anthony on this couch.
Why would he be down on
He's awesome, yeah.
I thought I read
he
first,
is awesome.
Why would I be down with myself? It's like, well, because you're awesome. Oh, I'm awesome. Oh, why am I down on myself? Why would you?
It's not paid for income tax. Yeah, it's just from the sale. So they're making something off the land.
Oh, he actually did explain kind of the Alaska is funded by government sales of oil, not paid by income tax, right? It's kind of similar, I guess, maybe to how they work out that whole. Because I was so confused when I got to New Hampshire, and they were like, "Yeah, the booze here is so cheap," and you're like, "Oh, cool, why?" And they're like, "Because it's sold by the government." I'm like, "Wait,
what?
Why would the government selling something make it cheap?" Well, they have the ability to maneuver things like that sometimes. Like by not taxing it and instead, like, I don't know. There's more to it than that. But
anytime they say something like, well, yeah, it's better because of the government, and then you're like, I'm gonna need to see your math on that one. think
It's
that's
everyone else that's a douchebag.
it is everyone else that's a douchebag. And Anthony is like the best. If you don't think so, just ask him.
Right. Well, and I mean,
Oh
you're
my
even
God.
saying that from the perspective of being one of the everyone else that is in fact a douchebag.
I'm the biggest douchebag there is.
Oh, don't be so down on yourself.
Just kidding.
You're awesome.
I am awesome.
No, nobody is awesome. Anthony alone is awesome.
Yeah, he's that, and then there's the rest of us. That's how I feel. I think I got you all filled in on everything that's happened since you were born. Are you still on Facebook?
Oh, well, maybe. I just don't. I don't think I've signed in forever. But there's technically still
No Facebook.
2 accounts. One that is not suspended, and one that is.
I still want to log into mine and download the pictures, but I'm so scared. I don't want to.
I mean, there's probably not a whole lot that could go wrong, but you'll probably get disappointed or just depressed by being there in the first place. The worst thing about
I
it
wish I could be like a
is,
ghost on it, so no one sees that I'm back, like I'm on, and I just download things and then I deactivate it.
as far as I can tell, because like even though I don't have the same number of friends that I had with the account that they yeeted, still was able to click through. They make it pretty easy to find people who know people who know people, so you can kind of just start clicking on names that you remember, and then most people will get those if they are ever on Facebook, and they'll accept your requests. You can still get your friends back, but at the same time, like it from my perception with trying to post on Facebook is like, okay, I could just say some stupid trivial shit that doesn't matter, and it'll get a bunch of engagement. But if I say anything like anti-establishment, then
You get
like
banned.
well, I mean, I don't tend to get banned. I just tend to get ignored, and I can't tell if it's just because nobody I used to know cares, or if it's just really that tight with their algorithms, just trying to make sure that nobody sees anything that I'm saying that actually has any substance. That's the way it feels. That's the way I perceive it, which is why I just don't bother it. If I say anything that is even worth saying on Facebook, then Facebook will make sure that nobody who needs to see it will see it.
Right. They got it down pat. And just log in and pull that up. Well, I think you can. There's even an easy way to do it because I tried doing it once. You just like go into the settings or whatever and say download all my photos, and I did it, and then I didn't get anything for a couple of days, and then I just had deactivated by then. So I just need to be brave and just log in and just do that. Because there's pictures of my old dogs on there that I don't really have anywhere else. And
yeah, if I were you, I probably would do that to get the photos. If I could, I would actually go and get some photos of mine. But that's the account that they won't let me back into. Well, no, I think at this point they really just there's no way, because when they first suspended me off of that account, they said like, we don't believe that David Gravy is your real name, or somebody, we have some reason, we just need to make sure that is your real name. So send us a photo of your driver's license so that we can confirm your identity. And I was basically like, fuck off. And like, no, I don't need to do that. And no. And then after a while though, I just told them, like, I kind of sent them a mean email. I was just like, please just delete that if you won't let it back or something like that. But then I think that I had some reason later to think that even if I did give them my ID, at this point they're still just keeping my shit and my records and sharing it with the NSA probably, and
with everything,
and never gonna let me back in anyway. But I had photos going back from like, I mean, there's photos that were probably on my original Facebook account that would be inaccessible anywhere else from my life from like age 19.
When they started letting everybody on, I was on that shit.
Yeah, around the time I graduated from high school, around 06 was when people started joining the Facebook.
Yeah. Man, when I was working a desk job in bookkeeping, and that's when MySpace started. So I was like,
oh yeah, you're a little bit older than me.
I loved it. I was like, got the MySpace going right away, because I was on the computer all day at work anyways. And then and the internet was started, like, I'm only a little bit older, but you could remember, like, you started having it in school.
That MySpace was something that you were, I only kind of, well, people my age were finding their way around MySpace. I just wasn't one of them.
Right, yeah. And it was like, and then Facebook came out, I was like, oh, this is so awesome. And I'm like, I wish I never fucking had a fucking account on there. Like, I had two on there. I had one that I would like post more sexy pictures, and I never posted like, I mean, I may have probably did have actual nudity on some that they didn't catch, but they started catching everything. And I would even do a meme that was like a little suggestive, and they like 30-day ban. So I was like, fuck off. And they wouldn't let me keep my fake name. I had a fake name on it, which is good. Do I hear it? Barbie Goodmanson.
Oh,
Isn't
nice.
that good? It was great. It was like perfect secret profile.
At one point, I was it's all gravy. Like ITSOL was my first name, and
And
the
then
last
gravy.
name was because it's
Oh,
all
that's
gravy.
cute.
Kept that for a while before somebody had, and on that occasion, I was able to just change it to David Gravy, and then
They were
it
fine
was
with
fine.
that.
They didn't need to see an ID. Eventually, maybe after like the third time, somebody says, "I don't think that that's his real name. You should check into it."
And
It's
there-
always the Karens.
And there was people on there who were like really bad trolls who were multiple profiles pretending to be multiple, like doing actual nefarious shit. And then I got fucked with some of that, and like
and that's just those people trying to attack you. I mean, because there's no real reason for them to be offended that I might not have been using my real name. I mean, I had a bunch of face photos too. I wasn't like trolling or being like or trying to be really like anonymous, but I'm pretty sure it happened right after I was kind of getting into it with some so-called progressives and those types of commies. The people, the ones that I've known the best that aren't like you're like rah Karl Marx types, but the people who identify as progressives that wouldn't ever really call themselves commies, but they're
definitely Nazis.
I mean, well,
I want to start calling everyone else Nazi back.
I mean, Nazi I wouldn't say is as accurate as fascist, but I think that fascist is sometimes a more accurate term for these people than progressives. And I think that's actually why they need to have their own definition of fascism, because it's so fitting for them and they want to think that they're opposed to fascism. So
they'll be fascist.
It's like, no, you can't call this fascism. We actually think that corruption is bad, and it is also not fascism because it's not imperialistic or nationalist. Okay, but what about all the other things that you can check the box on, like the corporatism and the central control and the collectivist,
and Jesus Christ saving everybody at birth collectively, which I know is not true. I wish you were there. I would have tagged you in it.
That really is the liberal kind of like, what C.S. Lewis would have called the soft soap Christianity. The idea that like, I mean, you kind of get the idea of the gospel because, I mean, if you're preaching the Bible, then you're not going to be able to like ignore the gospel. But it seems like they just do their own. Where what they take from it is just that, like, yeah, so Jesus, who could have just been a metaphor, he atoned for our sins on the cross, and then because he did that, then we're all good now. Which, I mean, honestly, just makes it sound stupid. Like just an excuse to be a hedonist. Is like, well, because we believe in this metaphorical story about this dude that was like supposed to be like God, but as like a man, and then he was blameless, and then he was sacrificed, and then magically we can do whatever we want and we're not condemned because Jesus died for us.
Amen.
Well, cool. Then why do we go to church?
That's where you have, that's the community. I don't know. What else do I talk about? I feel tired. Now the daylight saved. It's only 4. It feels like it could be like 6 or 7 to me right now. I try and do our plans. The remember last time we got about that far too? I'm good. Is it pot? Yeah, I'm good. Do you remember that though? We had like a list that was about that long last time.
Well, we brainstormed before. Were we talking
did.
about skit ideas?
Yeah. Well, we started to, but not really.
What was the skit idea I presented to you recently?
Hold on, that's my.
We gotta do the skits.
David, just texted me right here.
Are you still able to see DM records on the Twitter when, or this actually text messages?
Yeah, you said, imagine a skit where a COVID patient is in the ICU where he is denied the antibodies, that one, and then put on a ventilator and then killed. And the doctor put him on the ventilator, starts chatting with the nurse.
Yeah.
It's hard to muster less sympathy.
Yep. Yeah, and that was inspired by that passenger that I had that was talking about that was kind of suggesting that he might have had a conversation with the doctor, and he's like, right, like these people, they're crazy. They won't just go ahead and do what they should have done to make sure that we can get out of this whole pandemic. Like, they're just holding back humanity by not, rolling up their sleeves. If only everybody would just cooperate, then we could all get through this. And then when somebody who just foolishly resisted and said, "Nah, I'm good. I don't want that. I think I'm taking my chances with the virus." Oh yeah, well he's gonna end up in the hospital dying, and then he's going to be so audacious as to say to a doctor, save my life, I'm dying. And be like, we told you how you could save yourself and you decided not to do it. So, I guess I'll try to care about you.
It's so and it's sad. It's realist. That's real.
Yeah, that people actually have this attitude.
The fact that people have had this thought out loud means it's going to happen. Where so the executive orders Polis signed weren't specific that said, oh, you must deny the unvaccinated. It wasn't anything like that. But it's opening the doors. He's basically doing it so they don't get sued because they're so short staffed. They have to turn people away right now because they're short staffed from all these stupid mandates and the government fucking with the healthcare system for 2 years straight now.
So they are legit turning people away.
Suppose if they're giving them legal immunity if they turn someone away and then that person ends up actually dying and then they there's a lawsuit brought for it, but they're saying because of all the COVID patients they need to turn people away, but it's not emergency.
And hasn't part of this bullshit this whole time been that they were not offering up any suggestions for treatment from the get-go?
No,
they were basically so I think that even happened to some of
I think they did it on purpose.
Some of my distant family was and maybe that's true. Not everybody though, even because these folks were kind of old-ish, and I know that one of them was, pretty for sure. Did test positive, but the symptoms made it sound like he definitely did get COVID.
Right.
But then, I think they're asking for him to take his temperature at home, and because it wasn't at a high enough level, they said just stay home and get some rest. Don't come into the hospital. But it's kind of it's they would either say, you have to go home and then we're not going to give you any advice or any support, or come into the hospital where we'll murder you with a ventilator.
Well, and
if it's serious enough.
There's nefarious things going on there, I think, where they did turn people back so then they'd be at home. I have a friend whose mom died and she just had been coughing so much for a week. By the time she did go to the hospital, it was just too late. Her lungs were broken and she passed. And it's you wonder if she did call at one point and they're oh, just stay home. I bet that I don't.
But then it's also one of those cases where, you still can't even say, it'd be impossible to prove one way or the other, but they could have possibly made that decision out of the insight that, even if you come into the hospital, your chances of surviving are probably pretty low, and we don't really want to have that on our conscience.
True.
Because that's clear cut the case. And that's even one of the things that I can get my mom to agree with me on is that I mean, she even said this in a more direct. Like, I thought she would have accused me of being hyperbolic if I said what she actually said, which is that ventilators are a death sentence. But I mean, that's scientifically kind of
It's
accurate.
proven, the data.
You go on this thing and your lungs don't know how to work on their own anymore. I mean, you might be able to, under some circumstances, use this as long as you're real careful to make sure you're not using it for very long, and it may actually be okay. But most of the time, they're not actually being that careful. It's ridiculous.
True. Fuck that.
And then yeah, and I was gonna say with that molnupiravir thing, that Bill Gates video where he's mentioning just these two therapeutics as if they're the only possible things that exist. Those are the two examples he can give you as like, yeah, we really don't have any therapeutics for this. I mean, people have talked about these two specific drugs. Yep. No mention of monoclonal antibodies. No mention of IV blankety blank. Yeah, yeah, let's just call it the horse paste, because then we're
we take control of the word. We're taking the word.
We're taking it back.
We're taking it back.
Look, yeah, I can never decide what to do with that. I played with it and ended up getting a tweet that went along with it where people were actually thinking I was being serious, that I actually believe that's it's what the stuff is that it's just a horse dewormer, even though I was obviously joking. But yeah, we could own the horse dewormer thing. I'm just not sure what angle to use it. Like,
call it horse, sure. Call it. You know what I'm talking about when I say horse dewormer now.
Yeah.
So
just to use it as like the term for the actual, even the human medication.
Gotta get our hands.
It's a horse dewormer's like that's like the street slang now.
Yeah, like Special K.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's so funny how every news thing
got
is like,
some of that horse paste, bruh.
You took medicine that's commonly used as horse dewormer. And I'm like, do you know, bitch? Do you know how much dog aspirin? Dogs have less aspirin, but you don't see an aspirin commercial saying this aspirin is also used as a dog medication. It's just so dumb.
The weird thing though is that I can't decide if I'm the dumb one or even entertaining any of this at all, because it is so fucking stupid that it really doesn't deserve any attention. But yet
they bring it up like
I guess that's what we feel like we're forced to do. I don't know, but I'm guessing that it really is a mistake on my part for like, I mean, there's some line that I have to find where it's like, okay, this person is saying this. I am making a fool out of myself even engaging with this person, because
I'm bringing myself to their level of stupidity by even like validating it.
Yeah, maybe you just don't go beyond the one time. Like if you could if I could try to argue something in support of like a ivermectin, and then what they've got for me is like, oh, that's horse dewormer. If I state very plainly why that is not an argument, and then they continue to talk about horse dewormer, then at that point, I mean, why would you not block that person? You have no ability to communicate. I'm not going to go around in circles with you on this. But that's what people want to do. I guess part of me is just curious how far they will hang on to this.
Yeah,
I somewhat find I'm fascinated by my own, maybe it's my own ego thing, why like I'm able to like take them seriously enough to even like do something with what they're giving me and take it even further. And I'm like, yeah, and you're just a bottomless well of contradictions and things that.
And where are they reading it? Where do they get the orders? If they're not watching CNN, where are they getting the orders from?
I don't know. Maybe it really is more sophisticated propaganda than I thought.
Like where Facebook groups, maybe.
Or maybe people are so well studied that they've actually figured out how to like maybe not in a 100% guarantee kind of way, but they can do propaganda to basically like make people imagine very specific things. As an example, I want to tell you about this magic trick. Like, right, so this was a David Blaine thing, and the way that it worked is that you could have somebody write a certain like color on a piece of paper, and then you could and then you could ask them a series of these questions, and then pretty much guaranteed, unless there are some anomalies, or if they don't quite do it right, or you didn't quite word your questions right, that they don't end up giving you what the color is that they wrote down on the piece of paper. It's a pretty impressive thing. I've even successfully done it myself because I was able to kind of reverse engineer it. But there's like ways that it would amaze somebody, but you could come up with this system where if I bombard this audience with this idea, this idea, this idea, psychologically they have to connect these dots in a certain way. And then and we've done this in a way that we know that they're not going to come up with anything outside of these parameters. So some of it might not even it for as far as they can tell, they came up with it themselves because nobody actually told them this talking point. It's just the only one that anyone could come up with in order to try to make sense of the messaging that they've been subjected to.
That makes sense. Like, it does kind of make sense when you start thinking about it as you hear it.
Yeah, that was hard to explain, but I think you followed me on that.
I totally followed you on it. Because it makes sense that they would, of course they would start comparing the boosters to polio and MMR. Of course they would, justify that. Of course they would say this and that. Like,
you know what one of the weird things was about that MMR thing?
What?
So apparently this one guy who had he was like a scientist himself, and I think he had a problem with one of his kids. He took this to like the floor of like Congress or something like that. No, I think he was an actual senator or a representative,
with like an autistic kid,
yeah, or something like that. And he came across this to just raise the question, and what he was suggesting was not. I mean, he realized how attacked he could get for this, so he actually went out of his way to make a point that all he was going to say on the floor was like, we're seeing some troubling data on this. We're a little bit concerned about giving 12 to 18-year-olds the whole MMR thing, which is like measles, mumps, and rubella, I think, all at once. And he was suggesting that maybe we should consider trying just not doing it all at once. That could actually, we're seeing data that suggests that we could make adverse events even more rare if we thought about it like that. Maybe do single shots, maybe try that out or something. He wasn't even saying anything oppositional as a blanket statement. It was basically just that suggestion: consider single shots versus always going with the MMR. The next action that took after he went on there, he started getting smeared in the media, and I think it was the CDC or the FDA or both in cahoots with each other, took single shot vaccines off of the market and made it because he publicly made this suggestion. And suddenly anyone who might have been watching on C-SPAN or whatever, who might have thought like, oh, well, I think what that guy is saying makes sense. I think I'm going to give my kids like the separate vaccines for these things. But then before they could even have a chance to decide to do that, it was decided for them, nope, that's not going to be an option for you. There's the MMR or nothing. And you have to take, and you can't do nothing. So there's the MMR. Take it or take it.
Yeah, I remember I had to take it right before high school again. I think I got a booster of it. And you know what? I don't think, oh, I got that one, so any other one that anyone ever possibly can get will be totally fine and won't harm them at all, blah, blah, blah. Like, and I did get shingles young, and they say they think shingles are starting younger and younger because of certain the amount of inoculations, because it's a nerve thing, and you're like, shooting this stuff in your body. Like that's what I don't get. Like, oh,
Well, it's just what I don't what I have a problem with is the hubris of it all, because people think that they understand. I'm not saying that I understand it perfectly well, but that's what I do understand is that they don't understand as well as they think that they do. And I've
Right.
seen evidence of this my whole life ever since I kind of got red pilled on that. Was like, yeah, you this is the pattern that keeps on unfolding, and it's probably been going on for centuries, if not millennia, where yeah, the science is really sure of itself, and then it thinks it can't be wrong, and then it goes and operates as if that's the case, and then more stuff is revealed, like yeah, and it ends up being that like they're just experimenting, like just in a way that they said that they weren't going to, in the
right.
long run. Yeah, with this trial and error, the only way to find out what that its problem is to work. Yeah, how many holes did you have to drill in people's skulls before you decided that that's probably not the best solution for headaches? Like,
Yeah, like I'll do my own trial and error in my own life, and I think I did pretty good. Like,
yeah,
I don't know, fuckers.
but yeah, because I mean that's really the thing is that yeah, people. And some people are nefarious enough that they just don't even care.
I know, 'cause
They're
it's
not
like,
even concerned. Well, our asses are covered and we're getting our money, so I'm not really too concerned about that.
like a Fauci.
Some of them probably do have kind of just a legitimate like ends justify the means sort of mentality about it, where they realize that they're lying, and they realize that some people are going to get hurt, but they just assume like, well, these people have legitimate concerns, but the thing is that they're too stupid to realize it's not actually legitimate because it's for the greater good. Like, yes, unfortunately,
That's such
some
a good
people are going to
idea.
have to die, and no, like, and so that's why we can't talk about it plainly, like, but I mean, but to make an omelet, you have to break some eggs, like,
True. Like I've seen people like when they bring up the minuscule amount of kids that have passed away from it. They're like, well, what about that 0.001%? You're just gonna let them die? And it's like, okay, but anytime they bring that argument up, it's like you do understand people are dying because of your actions now too, because there's always equal opposite effects, and there will always be consequences. So there are children dying. The childhood obesity rate is up right now. Blah blah blah. Like, how can someone say that? Like, it's such a weird,
yeah.
manipulative thing to fucking say.
I
In
brought
my
up to my
opinion.
mom like concerns about like the psychological stuff with the masks and the kids and all that kind of stuff, and her response was simply like, the kids will be fine.
Yeah, that's what, like, when people are divorcing, they always say that the kids will be fine, and the kids are not fucking fine.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah, they might be fine. Let's hope for that. Let's go from the
Being positive.
yeah, let's consider that they probably will be fine. But that you could use that to justify doing anything. Like, yeah, I mean, it's all right, and we don't have to worry too much if the kids get abused, because like there's therapists exist and people heal.
Yeah,
And
it's no big deal. We'll fix it. Like, it's so hot. Like, because I've always thought, I remember just going through my own journey and fixing my own brain and stuff. It's like, man, a child's brain is so delicate and fresh and like beautiful, like we're saying too. Like, there's not the facades and stuff, and then people got to come in and fuck them up, like on purpose. Sometimes not on purpose, just because we don't know sometimes, and then like maliciously, like, and people just like they don't even care. And I'm like, aren't kids supposed to be like the most precious things? Like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on in this world. They're sacrificing them, I guess. I don't know. They're making them faceless, genderless, personalityless, can't have their own thought list.
yeah, it's some kind of mind virus for sure. Like,
Like, look at that book right there, Parasitic Mind.
that's probably a good read.
It is good. You can borrow that one. God's sad. I think that's how you say it. But the Parasitic Mind, and it is good, and it's a lot too about, especially in the universities, when this mind virus came in and like started turning the universities woke and all that shit, you know. So,
Well, yeah, there seems to have some it's like this Hegelianism and and these dialectics, and then what some people describe as like the postmodern thing. And I think Ken Wilber was getting at something with his idea that like that collectively we're on this postmodern stage of consciousness, and and the thing is that it's like unstable because according to his theory, which is also based on Hegelian dialectics, um, that like it's every stage is supposed to transcend and include the other stages. It just so happens that the stage we're in right now is trying to destroy everything that it's built on top of.
Yes.
You're like, yeah, that's kind of a big problem though. Like,
it's a real fucking problem. I don't get it.
maybe it's a parasite.
Because I'm all about progressing, but this isn't progressing. This is making it worse. Like, very clearly. I don't know.
Which is weird too, because with autism, they say that when somebody does start like having a reaction like this that appears to ultimately lead them into a state of autism for the rest of their life, that like the word that I've heard them use is that they started regressing about a week after this event or something like that. So I don't know, maybe it's this idea of trying to make a regression a progression, or well, everything seems like it's just turned upside down, or
it's progress for the people who want us dead and stuff.
And who knows what they decided to do because of
You're good. Keep talking. Hello? Hi.
MK Ultra. They could have,
No, you're right.
for all we know, they knew that they had the ability to turn kids autistic, and they thought that autism would be something that would make them more controllable. But of course, they found out, unfortunately for them, that it makes us all autistic and it makes us all libertarians. I was just like, this is probably one of the stupidest things I've ever said, but I was saying that perhaps the plan that one of the things that they came from with their MK Ultra experiments was that maybe they did find a way to predictably give certain number of people autism, and they thought that this autism would make it easier to control them psychologically, and so they figured this would play into their hands. But little did they know that autism actually makes people libertarians.
Yeah, that's
plot twist. I would love it if something even remotely like that was actually true.
That they thought it was going to help them.
Yeah, there's like a plan, that there's a plan to do this to people, but then it backfires on them like that. Like they tried to turn us into zombies, but instead they turned us into radical individualists.
And who want self-sufficiency and stuff. They're too weird. They made us too autistic.
Yeah, they should.
I don't even think I'm autistic.
Thing should be a skit.
Do you think I'm autistic?
No, and I'm not autistic either. I'm arguably on the spectrum, based on observational evidence. But
we're introspective. That's for damn sure. We'll think about things forever and ever. MK Ultra thing should be a skit. Yeah, we can make a skit of that.
Yeah, maybe that would be a way to actually use that idea without actually presenting it as if I seriously am trying to perpetuate a conspiracy theory, because then it would be like a fun like performance art thing. That may make people, the thing about like what I was saying with MK Ultra discovering that, because I wouldn't even try to seriously present that as a legitimate theory.
Right.
It's probably
it'd be fun to act it out. That'd be the best.
The chances of that being true is pretty absurd to even consider that. But other than that, it's an interesting idea to consider.
True. I think anything you can think of that they could be doing, they are.
But I mean, the truth is too. I mean, and you can assume maybe at least that anything that you can think of, like there's probably some representation of that in reality.
Right.
That could be close to the truth, if not perfect.
That's capital T truth. You're like, no. Oh, look at it. Hi, kitty. She decided to join us. Isn't she so beautiful?
Definitely like seems like the
Sorry, my cat just came in.
perfection.
For being a mutt, she looks pretty, I think.
Well, a mutt shouldn't be a bad thing, right?
Right.
Because they say that like inbreeding actually causes birth
It's-
defects.
yeah.
So if you kind of just let animals have the romances that they would naturally have, they're probably gonna be like
Survival of the fittest.
healthier
and-
animals.
yeah.
Yeah. As much as they're not gonna
I don't know
be
about this one though.
characteristic of a certain breed.
I don't think he was on the right end of the. He was in the getting too weird with it. No, I love
Your dog
cats.
reminds me more of my cat than your cat reminds me of
No,
my cat.
they're like opposite. She chases him around. He doesn't chase her ever, ever, ever. But she chases him constantly.
That's not fair.
I know, and he doesn't fight back. He's such a pussy. Like he won't even like nip at her and come like you can if she's scratching you or something, you can nip that. I think that's a self-defense issue there, and like he doesn't. He just yelps and runs away. She's queen bitch.
Though I was telling you about how my cat's not doesn't show signs of really being capable of anything, like especially hunting and stuff like that. I have noticed her ability to stand up for herself among against other animals. Like the big Doberman that we lived
The
with for a
sad
little while. Yeah, and although it's especially because she's actually sad and perfectly innocent, but like the one time that Doberman ran up to my cat to like, hey, she's just like, fuck you, and
She's so little
and just
too.
she it was like what they say about if you go to prison, like you gotta like punch the biggest guy first, and then that way nobody messes with you,
You
even
get
though that's
cred.
probably a terrible idea if you don't pull it off at least. But yeah, that you go after the biggest badass in there, then nobody will, something like that. So she kind of just established her dominance over this dog. And that's what I've kind of seen her do, because she doesn't seem to ever want to get into it, but she's not interested in any other animals that I've seen. So she will just let them know immediately, like, I don't like you.
Yeah.
Stay away from me.
That's I mean that's good as a human. That's a good skill as a human
Yeah.
too. Like we know who we like or not, or want to be around, or vibes with or not. You know, and you can very politely if you need to be rude, you need to be rude. But oh, he's tired. He's been sleeping all afternoon. He's tired still. He's getting nervous because of her, because she'll probably come up and bop him. she's so like.
So that's really all that it is. It's like you won't protect me from this psychopath, even when he looks at you like you're in the wrong. That's because I don't understand. You've seen what she does to me, yet you won't protect me from this
Protect the poor baby.
psycho kitty. Psycho kitty. Qu'est-ce que c'est?
All right, we're pushing almost 2 hours. Should we cut it?
I guess so.
We'll do it again. At some point, we'll do a song live.
Yeah.
But we'll practice and do a song. Okay. Do you want to give your plugs?
I don't know if I don't really have anything to plug right
Okay.
now, but if you don't know me on Twitter, eventually you can find me at Spirit Llama Spirit _ Llama.
Yeah.
You probably know me already though. But anyway.
Probably. And this Forest Mommy, all right, we're signing off. Thanks for listening to us ramble.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Bye.